Oh, sorry. Just drinking my whey protein. So, this whole video is going to be about protein. Well, most not just whey protein. It's going to be all types of protein powders if you actually need to supplement with powders, and if a protein powder is actually essential in what it actually does. Because of course on the market you hear all this bullshit claims that all the bodybuilders and meatheads, whatever, they're like, oh, protein. You need to have as much protein as possible. You need to spend $60 a week, $60, $200 a month on protein powders and have protein every single minute of the day because protein builds muscle, etc. I don't know what the hell they're talking about essentially. And they do have truth to what they're saying. Protein does build muscle, but it's not the only thing out there. I mean, there's fats and carbohydrates, which are equally as important. Now, of course, your muscles are made of protein. Everyone knows that, and protein is very important to building muscle. But there's a certain point where if you have too much protein, it's not like you're going to build more muscle. Like if you're eating 200 grams is still perfect amount for someone based on the body weight. But if you're eating like 300 grams, 400 grams of protein, you're not going to build more muscle. You're going to store it as fat, and you're stupid for having that much protein, and you're wasting money on powder because most likely you're getting that protein from powders because you're not eating that much protein content in food unless you're eating a shit ton of food. Now, the general recommendation for protein amount, because the question, of course, everyone asks is how much protein should I actually eat? And it's very hard to get an answer to this question because if you ask someone at the gym or if you ask someone in GNC or someone in a body, whatever, a personal trainer who doesn't know exercise physiology or isn't educated in what the body actually needs, they're just going to say, oh, you want 300 grams of protein, 2 grams per pound of body weight of protein to maximize protein synthesis, blah, blah, blah. They probably wouldn't say synthesis because they wouldn't use that term. Protein gain, blah, blah, blah. The truth is you don't need that much protein. Now, the RDA, what the government recommends is 0.8 grams times how much you weigh in kilograms. So 0.8 grams of protein times kilograms, which kilograms is your weight divided by 2.2. That is a really low amount of protein. I wouldn't go by that. If you're a sedentary individual and you're not working out, sure, go with that recommendation, which for me will be 70 grams of protein. So yeah, sure, if you're a sedentary individual, that's perfect. But for people who are watching these videos and they're actually interested in working out, you're not sedentary and you want to build muscle. That's the point of working out. So you're going to need more protein, whether you're weightlifting, you're running marathons, or you're a triathlete, you need more protein. Now, of course, weightlifters need more protein than triathletes and endurance athletes, but you still need more protein. A good recommendation to go by is the max amount of protein you should be eating is at most 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. So I'm 160 pounds, so 1.5 grams will be about 220 grams maybe. I really shouldn't go more than that, even if I'm trying to gain crazy muscle, because again, your body, there's a diminishing return. If you have more protein, it's not going to be beneficial. Now, we're actually going to talk about protein powders and if you actually need powders. The short answer is no, you don't. A protein powder is a supplement, and like any supplement, it's a supplement. It's to add to your diet. So it's not to replace your diet. You don't actually need it. A protein powder like that big bag right there, oh, by the way, I'm in a hotel. This is my Sweet Kitchen hotel. That bag right there is a protein powder, yes. It's 26 grams of protein, but you know what else is 26 grams of protein? A piece of chicken, a thing of Greek yogurt, well, maybe 2 things of Greek yogurt. Pretty much anything you eat, 3 eggs, anything you eat has protein. So protein in a powder form is the same thing as protein that you get from food. Of course, your body prefers protein from food because food is natural, but protein powder is really for convenience. I mean, it's not always convenient for people. Like if you're eating 220 grams of protein a day, sometimes it's not convenient to have 220 grams in food because it's also an economical issue. 220 grams of food does cost money, and protein powders are cheaper because you can easily get like this, this probably isn't 20 grams, so I didn't fill all the way up, but easily like 15 grams of protein right here in this little liquid, which is pretty good. So it's for convenience usually. It's not a necessity. You don't need protein powders. It's for convenience. Now, if you weigh 230 pounds and you're a bodybuilder, you're eating about 300 grams of protein a day because based on your body weight, that's how much protein your body needs in order to build muscle. and because of the activities you're putting it through. 300 grams of protein in food form is pretty damn hard to do unless you're eating 2 rotisserie chickens a day. 300 grams of protein is very hard to get, or 20 eggs a day, I don't know. So people, they supplement with protein powders because it's convenient. You can get if you put 2 scoops of this, you can get 50 grams of protein in a little drink. It's convenient. If you're traveling, like I travel for work. So I'm in an airport Monday and Thursday, so protein powders are convenient. Now let's talk about what protein powders to get, because there's a crap ton of supplements out there. There's whey powders, there's casein, egg protein, soy, rice, hemp. I think that's it. There's a lot of different protein powders out there. So the question is, what should you actually get? Well, unfortunately, supplement companies also take advantage of this, and they make their own products and their own blends of special proteins and say it's special, which in reality it's just protein. And it's a competition essentially, just like creatine, pre-workouts, post-workouts. It's all a competition. So there's a crap ton of proteins out there. So we're just going to go over when you're looking for a protein powder, what should you do? You have a couple options. You can either listen to a friend, a recommendation from a friend, listen to a professional, a bodybuilder, or someone who owns a gym owner, or you can go online and just type in best protein powders, or you can just go to GNC or NutriShop, whatever, and look for the one with the most fancy container that flashes out at you. That's probably usually not a good sign. If a company has a fancy container, it's probably not a good supplement. That's tip number 1. But in order to tell if it's a good protein powder, you have to look for a few things. 1, this will go if you're not lactose intolerant or if you're not a vegetarian. Whey protein powder is the best protein out there. That's the one thing companies have right. Whey protein powder is the best protein because it's absorbed the fastest. It's made of milk. It's milk protein essentially. And it's absorbed the fastest, which makes it more, I don't want to say superior, but makes it better or superior. It makes it superior to casein, egg protein, soy protein, hemp, rice, whatever, because it is absorbed faster. And after you work out, your muscles are starved for fuel. They want energy right away. They want that protein. And if you have a casein after you work out, your body is going to take its time, its sweet old time to absorb that casein. It's going to take 3, 4, 5 hours, whatever, to absorb that protein fully. Whereas if you take whey, it's absorbed instantaneously and you get that protein right to your muscles. Rice protein, egg protein, soy protein, it's absorbed slower than whey, of course, but faster than casein, but it's still not absorbed as fast as whey. So whey is the king. Your body absorbs it right away. Now, and of course, all these protein powders have the right blend of amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, whatever, all the amino acids it has, so it actually works. But now, the things you want to look for when you're looking for a good protein powder: 1, if you're not vegetarian or if you're not lactose intolerant. If you're lactose intolerant, obviously you can't have whey or casein because they make milk. I would go with whey because it's absorbed the fastest and it's the most efficient and most superior, and it's usually not that expensive. And now, another thing you want to look for with whey is the ingredients. What companies do is there's whey concentrates and whey isolates. And they have some fancy terms like super concentrated whey, which is bullshit. It's just whey concentrate. So whey concentrate and whey isolate, it's 2 forms. Whatever protein powder you get, you want to make sure it has whey isolate, if it's a whey protein, of course. Whey isolates they're heavily filtered. So it's just whey. You're just getting pure whey usually, about 90% whey. It's very small particles, so whey isolate is really the purest form of whey you can get. Whey concentrate, on the other hand, is less filtered. It's more lumpy and it's not as pure as whey isolate. I mean, it's still whey protein, obviously, but you're not getting your money's worth because it's a shitty form of protein of whey. So whey isolate, you want whey isolate to be the main ingredient. So you either want it to be the first ingredient on the ingredient list, or actually say 100% whey isolate or whatever. It's legit. It's a little bit more expensive, but in the long run, if you think about it, $3 extra for a superior brand of protein is not a lot of money. You spend $3 on a cup of coffee or something. So you want to make sure it's whey isolate and whey protein. Obviously, it's better than casein. The only time you should ever really have a casein protein is if you have extra money to spend and you want to supplement with additional proteins. And before you go to bed, because it's absorbed slower, but I wouldn't really go with casein. If you really want to buy a protein powder, just go with whey. That's about it. Now, the second thing you want is, it's very important, all protein powders are not made the same. I'll just show, I'm not going to say what this is, obviously the title, of course, but I'll just go with the ingredient list. Now, certain protein powders, of course, just like pre-supplements or any supplements where they have the right product, but they cheat you out on the actual dosage that you need, protein powders can do the same thing. In a protein powder, of course, you mostly want protein. You don't want carbohydrates and fat. What some supplements out there do have, like 5 grams of carbohydrates, 6 grams of carbohydrates. So, but why the hell do you want carbs in your protein powder? It's a protein powder, not a carb powder. So the second thing you want to look for is, first, you probably can't see it too well, but first you want to look at the serving size, how many grams it is. So this serving size is 38.5 grams. So that's the first thing, you look at the serving size. Second thing is look at the amount of protein that's in a serving. So in this case, 24 grams. Now you want to know how much of this actual serving, 38.5 grams, is actually protein and not other things, such as carbs, fats. This thing is, this one does have a lot of carbs, but because it's not a pure protein powder. So yes, my protein powder does have 8 grams of carbs, so I guess I don't have a pure protein powder. But you want to look at the serving size of protein, 24 grams, and then you want to look at the serving size, which is 38.5 grams. And take your nifty phone calculator, and then just do a calculation. What you want to do is you want to find out how much of the serving size is actually protein. So you take how much grams it is, 24 grams per serving size, divided by 38.5 grams. And this tells you how much percentage of this thing is actually protein. Unfortunately, I had a bad example. My protein powder is only 62% protein. So that's actually a bad example. But ideally, to be a good protein powder, you want it above 80% protein powder, 80% protein. Because what this means is 38% of this bag, or 38% of the scoop, is not protein. It's because it's coming from mostly from the carbohydrates, because it has 8 grams of carbs. It's mostly coming from other things. Now, ideally, you want above 80% protein per serving, so you know for your money you're getting mostly protein, because you're paying for a protein powder, not carbs. So that's what you want. So when you're looking for protein, you want to make sure it's whey, if you're not lactose intolerant, because whey is absorbed the fastest. And you want to make sure the first product has to be whey isolate to make sure you're getting the purest form of whey. If you're spending the money on the protein powder, you want a good protein powder. And then you do that little conversion or calculation, and you want to be about 80% protein, ideally more than 80%. If it's less than 80%, it's usually not worth the money, unless it's for a different reason. There's a different benefit to it. There's a different benefit to this because it's not just whey, it's whey, casein, and egg protein. So it's like, I'm not going to explain the benefit of that. But it's different type, that one's a different type of protein. Now, for a friend who asked me about vegetarian protein powders, I didn't even think about those. Now, vegan protein powders are usually, I think the only time you would ever consider taking a vegan protein powder is if you're lactose intolerant and you can't handle the whey or the casein because it is made of milk. Or if you're a vegetarian. If you're not lactose intolerant or you're not a vegetarian, why the hell are you taking a vegan protein? There's no health benefits versus whey powder versus vegetarian powder, not that I know of. If you have a study that's showing health benefits, please send it to me. But I have not seen any studies. Now, the pros of all these other proteins like hemp, rice, soy, pea, I think the benefit of all those proteins is, one, no one's allergic to any of those things. It's very hypoallergic, which is the scientific term they use. And a lactose person can take them, a vegetarian can take them, whatever. Now, the downfall of most of these are they're not complete proteins. Since they're not animal products, they don't contain all of the amino acids. So you have to, of course, eat food. But if you're taking protein powders, you probably know that they're for supplementing, not to replace your diet. And the other con against them is that they are absorbed slower. They're not whey protein, so it takes longer for your body to actually utilize the protein and bring the little amino acids to go into your muscles to actually cause the muscle synthesis. Because when you eat the proteins, they don't do anything until it actually goes into your muscles. The digestibility time or the absorption time is the time it takes to go into your muscles. Whey has the fastest, casein has the slowest. All these other vegetarian proteins have like a medium digestion rate. So you really, if you're taking them post-workout and you're not vegetarian or lactose intolerant, don't do it because they're being absorbed slower. And after you work out, you want energy to your muscles right away. So that's the basics on the protein powder, about how you should do it. The protein powders, if they're actually essential, and they're not essential.